o'clock. ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
It's going to take a while longer until theme parks in California can reopen. The new guidelines issued after months of closures.
Plus, the NTSB reveals the one thing that it says could have saved lives the night a massive fire broke out aboard a dive boat.
And we are just 2 weeks out from Election Day. The different strategies the two presidential candidates are using as we enter the home stretch.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
Disneyland and San Diego's two major theme parks have to wait longer before they can reopen. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt.
And I'm Derek Stahl. The state released new guidance today saying these parks will have to wait until their counties reach the least restrictive yellow tier. But as ABC 10 News reporter Adam Rakusin explains, theme park operators say this could be financially devastating.
Those who love theme parks rejoice. The state of California has finally released guidance on how to reopen. Now, before you get too excited, it might be a while before reopening is actually a reality.
You're right, we don't have the crystal ball. I don't know when Orange County or San Diego County will indeed enter yellow.
That's Dr. Mark Galley, the California Health and Human Services Secretary. According to the state, smaller theme parks, ones with an overall capacity fewer than 15,000, may resume limited operations when the county is in the orange tier. Capacity will be limited to 25% or 500 people. They can only open outdoor attractions, and ticket sales must be limited to visitors residing in the same county as the park.
Really, the nature of the smaller amusement theme parks is that they're really local activities. They often don't draw from broad communities.
Theme parks like Legoland, SeaWorld, and Disneyland have to wait until the county they're in hits the yellow tier, and then can only open at 25% capacity. SeaWorld is already kind of open at a limited capacity under the state's guidance for zoos and aquariums. Both Legoland and Disneyland fired back at the new guidelines. The president of Legoland California writing in part, not allowing theme parks to open until Tier 4 will destroy the industry in California, and the economic impact to industries that rely heavily on theme parks will be catastrophic.
These parks are meant to operate at full capacity. Disneyland, after a long period of time, a couple of weeks ago actually, announced 28,000 layoffs.
Mira Kopik is a marketing lecturer at San Diego State University.
Hotels, restaurants, gift stores, all those things are being impacted. So it's not just the theme park which is going to struggle, but it's also the whole ecosystem around those theme parks.
Let's go! The state also released guidelines for sporting events and racetracks. Outdoor operations may resume in the orange tier with capacity at 20% and the yellow tier at 25%. So maybe next season these cardboard cutouts at Petco Park will be real San Diegans. Adam Rakusin, ABC 10 News.
And for sporting events, the state says ticket sales have to be limited to customers traveling within a 120-mile radius. The state's also discouraging fans from yelling, singing, and booing. San Diego County is just barely hanging on right now to the red tier in the state's color-coded reopening plan. Our latest numbers show 7.8 new coronavirus cases per day per 100,000 residents. Well, the magic number here is 7. Under the state's reopening system, anything above 7 is considered widespread infection, and it could push us back into the most restrictive purple tier. The number would have to stay above 7 for 2 straight weeks for the county to fall back into the purple tier.
We know San Diego does a tremendous job of tracking where their transmission is.
Now, if we do fall back into the strictest tier, non-essential businesses would have to move back outside, which could be challenging as we head into winter. County leaders were reminding people to wear masks and avoid large gatherings.
San Diego's second in-person trial during the pandemic is delayed until November because there aren't enough jurors. The trial was supposed to start today. 900 juror summons were sent out with the expectation of getting 80 to 100 potential jurors to fill the 12 spots. But only 40 people actually showed up. While the court says COVID-19 can be an acceptable reason for not being a juror, the courtrooms are renovated for COVID with plexiglass every 6 feet between every juror. Health officials say that we're in a critical period in the fight against coronavirus. As ABC's Rena Roy reports, cases, deaths, and hospitalizations are all on the rise across the country.
New cases are rising by double digits across much of the country, according to an internal Health and Human Services memo obtained by ABC News. Wisconsin emerging as one of the nation's COVID-19 hot zones. It's one of 17 states where deaths are going up and one of 42 battling increasing hospitalizations.
The COVID-19 pandemic has affected Wisconsinites in every corner of our state. The impacts have been tragic and widespread.
An Oklahoma City woman saying she beat COVID-19 twice.
I thought I was immune. I did not think I would get it again, and I did. This is serious, and it's taking a lot of lives.
Officials in Chicago saying they're in the thick of a second surge, urging people to take the virus seriously.
Nearly every region in the state has seen an increase in COVID-related hospitalizations over the last week.
It didn't happen by itself. People are being careless. People are getting cocky.
Authorities now considering reimposing restrictions in some hard-hit regions there.
I think it's hurting people's livelihood and the economy and everything else.
More than 12 million Americans are unemployed. Over 30 million may be at risk of eviction by the end of the year. And roughly 1 in 10 people say they don't have enough to eat.
It's a terrible time for everyone. I mean, there's not enough of anything anymore.
I'm afraid of being homeless. I'm afraid of losing everything I have.
The clock is ticking for the millions who are struggling during this pandemic, with lawmakers at a standstill on a new stimulus package for months now. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi originally declared a self-imposed deadline to wrap up talks today, but extended it until the end of this week, giving both sides more time to negotiate in hopes of voting on a bill before Election Day. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
In other headlines at 5, the NTSB is citing a lack of oversight in a fire that broke out on a dive boat and killed 34 people. It happened last year off Santa Cruz Island. As ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala explains, investigators say there's one thing that could have saved lives.
We don't want the families to have to experience what these families are experiencing now, ever.
In September of 2019, 34 people were killed when a fire spread through the Conception diving boat off of Santa Cruz Island, including San Diegan Nicole Quitasol and 4 of her family members.
The Conception is probably the greatest loss of life in the U.S. Merchant Marine for many decades at 34.
The NTSB's 5 board members ruled Tuesday that the lack of effective oversight by the boat's owner, Truth Aquatics Inc., led to this deadly fire. The NTSB says the 33 passengers and 1 crew member killed were in the bunk room, which is 2 decks below where 5 crew members were asleep in the upper deck. All 5 survived. This picture shows the amount of damage to each section of the boat. The NTSB board members agreed on 18 key findings in the investigation, including that the lack of required roving night watchmen and also lack of smoke detectors in the salon area of the boat delayed the detection of the fire by crew members, leading to the high number of fatalities. As the result of its investigation, the NTSB made new safety recommendations for the Coast Guard and others in the industry, including a requirement that newly constructed vessels with overnight accommodations have smoke detectors in all accommodation spaces, and that they provide a secondary means of escape into a different space than the primary exit so that a single fire should not affect both escape hatches.
The recommendations that we've issued today, if implemented, and that's the key, if implemented, would reduce the risk of future passenger vessel fires growing undetected.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
And while an exact cause of the fire was not determined, the NTSB says it could have been caused by electronics and batteries charging overnight. A separate federal investigation into the fire is currently underway. National City Police released the name of a homeless man charged with killing someone with a bow and arrow. Police say Miguel Venegas was arrested for murder after he led officers to the victim yesterday afternoon. They say he admitted to shooting the man with a bow and arrow at a transient camp on Wilson Avenue. The man was found dead when officers arrived. The victim's name has not been released yet. Anyone with information is asked to call National City Police.
Your voice, your vote. We are now exactly 2 weeks from Election Day in many states provided all registered voters with a mail-in ballot. As ABC's Elizabeth Scholze reports, Americans are voting early in numbers like we've never seen before.
In the home stretch of the campaign, the presidential candidates making starkly different closing arguments about the coronavirus pandemic. President Trump downplaying the virus as cases and hospitalizations spike again.
People are pandemicked out. You know that? They're pandemicked out.
While Joe Biden in a new campaign ad highlighting its personal and economic toll.
We have this virus now out of control, people out of work, no health care. How is that helping people?
The pandemic's effect reaching all the way to the Supreme Court. In a 4-4 decision, the court upholding Pennsylvania's state court ruling, allowing officials 3 days after the election to continue tallying mail-in ballots because of expected postal delays. Many voters choosing to wait hours in line to cast their ballots instead.
I would never mail my ballot in because I don't really trust this post office. Sorry.
More than 31 million Americans have already cast their ballots, according to the United States Election Project. At this time in 2016, that number was just 5.6 million. In Wisconsin, voters waiting for hours during the first day of in-person voting.
And as you can see, the line extends for many, many yards down.
A new ABC News Washington Post poll shows Joe Biden with a 1-point lead over President Trump in battleground North Carolina. Trump trails Biden by 10 points in 538's national polling average. With the window closing to sway the few remaining undecided voters, the candidates will appear together on stage for the final presidential debate Thursday. Biden off the campaign trail Tuesday to prepare, while the president is holding a rally in the key swing state of Pennsylvania. First Lady Melania Trump had been scheduled to appear with her husband in Pennsylvania in what would have been her first appearance at a campaign rally since June 2019. But her office canceled, citing a lingering cough from her COVID-19 infection. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
Democrat Sarah Jacobs continues to hold a double-digit lead over Georgette Gomez in the race for California's 53rd congressional district. That's according to our brand new ABC 10 Union Tribune scientific poll. ABC 10 News reporter John Horn explains why the Gomez campaign still sees a positive in the results.
Democrat Sarah Jacobs appears within reach of taking over the congressional seat long held by the retiring Susan Davis. Our new ABC 10 News Union Tribune scientific poll shows Jacobs leading City Council President and fellow Democrat Georgette Gomez 40% to 27%, with a third of voters still undecided in California's 53rd district.
With only 2 weeks left to go till the election, Georgette Gomez is running out of time.
Jacobs, granddaughter of Qualcomm founder Irwin Jacobs, has outspent Gomez about 5-1 on political advertising. In an interview Tuesday, she said she would not interpret these results to mean that she can pull back.
I worked on the 2016 presidential campaign, so I love seeing good polls, but I will continue working very hard for every last vote.
Gomez was chairing a city council meeting and unavailable for an interview. Her spokesman noted, however, that Gomez gained slightly from the prior ABC 10 UT poll. Her support grew from 24 to 27%, while Jacobs's rose from 38% to 40%.
We're gaining ground. Voters are just now learning more and more about Georgette's story, her proven record, and her bold agenda.
But the opportunity could be slipping by the day. Our poll showed 26% of respondents already voted. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
The Survey USA poll surveyed 511 likely voters in the district. It showed Joe Biden beating President Trump in the 53rd, 66 to 26%.
Padres prospect Luis Campusano is facing some legal trouble in Georgia after police say they found 79 grams of marijuana in his car. Police say they pulled the catcher over Saturday night near Augusta, and that's when they found the marijuana. Georgia has some of the strictest marijuana laws in the country, and Campusano could face up to 10 years in prison if convicted. Now, by comparison, here in California, he was caught with the same thing. Let's say, for example, he would face just a few months in jail or a simple fine. Campusano was called up to the Padres in September, and he had one at bat in the postseason.